You ever sit in a room full of people applauding someone while knowing the entire thing is built on lies? Because that's exactly where I found myself the day my father officially handed his company to my brother. Everybody stood there smiling like it was some proud family legacy moment. Champagne glasses, speeches, pictures. My father shaking my brother's hand in front of executives like he was passing down a kingdom. And honestly, part of me wasn't even angry anymore by that point, just tired. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of pretending favoritism didn't exist in my family. Tired of watching people reward confidence while ignoring character completely. But what nobody in that room knew was this. 3 weeks earlier, I had already sent a file to the SEC, and inside that file was enough information to destroy everything they were celebrating that night. Now, trust me, by the time the investigation started, my father realized too late that the son he underestimated for years was the only one who had actually tried to save him. But before I tell you how everything collapsed, you need to understand the kind of family I grew up in. Because people always assume toxic family dynamics are loud and obvious. Sometimes they're polished, professional, successful looking from the outside. My father built a large financial consulting company from nothing. And honestly, I respected that growing up. He worked constantly, demanded perfection, expected discipline. But there was one problem. In his mind, only one child deserved to inherit his legacy. My older brother. Now my brother had the personality my father admired. Loud, confident, aggressive. The kind of guy who walked into rooms acting important before accomplishing anything. And people often mistake that energy for leadership. Meanwhile, I was quieter, more analytical, more observant. And because I wasn't constantly demanding attention, my father assumed I lacked ambition. That's something a lot of families misunderstand. Quiet people are often watching everything. Now growing up, my brother got opportunities automatically. Internships at the company, special mentorship, business introductions. Meanwhile, I had to earn every inch of respect separately. And honestly, for years that resentment nearly poisoned me emotionally. But eventually, health and fitness changed my mindset completely. Because discipline gave me somewhere healthy to channel frustration. The gym became the one place where fairness existed. Weights don't care about favoritism. Results come from consistency, effort, patience. And slowly, training changed how I handled rejection. Instead of chasing validation constantly, I started building myself quietly, physically, mentally, emotionally. That discipline became the foundation for everything that happened later. Now, after college, I eventually joined my father's company too. Not because he invited me enthusiastically, more like obligation. And honestly, from day one, the difference in treatment was obvious. My brother received leadership meetings. I received paperwork. He got mentorship. I got oversight. But here's the funny thing about being underestimated. People stop hiding things around you. And that's exactly how I started noticing problems inside the company. At first, it seemed small. Strange transfers, questionable reporting, numbers that didn't fully match internally. Now let me be clear. I wasn't trying to expose anybody initially. Actually, I spent years trying to protect the company quietly. I brought concerns privately to leadership multiple times, especially my father. But every single conversation ended the same way. Dismissal, defensiveness, and eventually accusations that I was jealous of my brother. That's another thing toxic family systems do. They reinterpret honesty as betrayal whenever truth threatens the preferred narrative. Now, over time, the financial irregularities became impossible to ignore. Accounts manipulated, clients misled, risk exposure hidden intentionally. And honestly, the worst part wasn't even the corruption itself. It was realizing my brother genuinely believed he was untouchable because my father protected him constantly. That kind of unchecked favoritism becomes dangerous eventually. Now, one night, while reviewing internal records alone, I found documents that changed everything. Offshore transfers, false reporting connected to investment disclosures, signatures altered retroactively. And suddenly, this wasn't just unethical behavior anymore. This was potentially federal-level financial fraud. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, realizing the company was sitting on a time bomb. And honestly, I still didn't want destruction. I wanted accountability before disaster happened publicly. So once again, I approached my father privately. And trust me, I'll never forget that conversation. He barely let me finish speaking before exploding emotionally. Accused me of trying to sabotage my brother. Called me bitter, weak, disloyal. Then he said something that permanently changed our relationship. Your brother understands business. You never will. That sentence hit harder than he probably realized. Because underneath all the business conflict was something deeper, a lifetime of never being seen clearly by my own father. Now, a few weeks later, the company hosted a massive event announcing my brother as the future CEO officially. Everybody attended. Executives, partners, family friends. Big celebration. And honestly, watching it felt surreal because I already knew the truth sitting underneath the performance. See, after that final conversation with my father, something inside me shifted emotionally. not revenge. Clarity, because at some point, protecting people from consequences becomes enabling, and years of discipline had taught me something powerful. Avoiding discomfort today often creates catastrophe tomorrow. That applies in fitness, in life. So after consulting attorneys privately, reviewing evidence repeatedly, and realizing the legal exposure involved, I submitted everything, every document, every transfer, every report, to the SEC. Now let me explain something important. People think doing the right thing feels empowering immediately. Sometimes it feels horrifying instead, because exposing corruption inside your own family destroys illusions permanently. I barely slept afterward. Constant anxiety. Second-guessing myself. Wondering if I was destroying everything. But deep down, I also knew something else. The company wasn't collapsing because of me. It was collapsing because years of dishonesty eventually create consequences. Now fast forward to the night of the succession celebration. My father stood proudly on stage praising my brother publicly, talking about legacy, integrity, trust. And honestly, hearing those words while knowing the truth felt almost unreal. Then my brother gave his speech, confident, arrogant, talking about taking the company into the future. Everybody applauded. But while people celebrated, my phone vibrated quietly in my pocket, an email notification. The SEC had officially acknowledged receipt of the file and initiated preliminary review procedures. I remember staring at that message while applause filled the room around me. And honestly, I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Because despite everything, part of me still wished my father had listened earlier. Now, over the next few weeks, everything started unraveling slowly. Requests for documents, compliance reviews, audits, executives growing nervous, and suddenly the confidence inside the company changed into panic. Now here's the fascinating part. For the first time in my life, my father started treating me differently. Not kindly, exactly, carefully. Because suddenly, he realized the quiet son he dismissed for years understood the business more deeply than anyone expected. And honestly, that realization clearly unsettled him. Now eventually, investigations uncovered far more than even I initially knew. Regulatory violations, fraudulent disclosures, major legal exposure. And once everything became public internally, the succession plan collapsed instantly. My brother went from celebrated heir to liability almost overnight. Funny how quickly status disappears when accountability arrives. Now one evening, my father asked to meet privately. And honestly, I almost didn't go, but I did. We sat across from each other in silence for a long time before he finally spoke. You could have destroyed us. And honestly, that sentence revealed everything. Because even then, he still framed honesty as the problem instead of the corruption itself. So for the first time in my life, I answered him without fear. No, you destroyed this yourself the moment you chose protecting appearances over truth. Silence. Then something happened I never expected. My father looked tired. Not angry, just tired. And quietly he said, I thought your brother was strong because he looked confident. I didn't realize strength looks different sometimes. That sentence stayed with me deeply because honestly, society constantly confuses loudness with capability, aggression with leadership, image with integrity. But real strength often looks quieter. Discipline, patience, consistency. The same qualities fitness builds over time. Now looking back, I realize health and fitness prepared me mentally for that entire situation long before it happened. Because training teaches emotional control under pressure. It teaches delayed gratification, integrity when nobody's watching, the ability to endure discomfort without collapsing emotionally. And eventually those lessons spread far beyond the gym. Into business, relationships, boundaries, self-respect, everything. Today, my relationship with my family remains complicated, honestly. Some wounds don't fully disappear, but one thing changed permanently. I stopped needing approval from people committed to misunderstanding me. That freedom changes your life. So if you're listening right now while feeling overlooked, underestimated, or constantly compared unfairly, hear me carefully. Do not confuse being underestimated with being weak. Sometimes quiet people are carrying the deepest discipline in the room, and eventually, integrity will always outlast performance. Always.